Now, let's be real about it. There is no evidence to suggest whether he did or not because we have yet to have the report. So, in the United States, you are innocent until proven innocent. So help you God. That's all that you can really say about that, right? That's the best way about it. So, Armenia, anti-Islamic sentiment. Let's talk about that. Nah, we can talk about that just right afterwards, right? We're going to talk about that right after we talk Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall. Right now, the biggest fight that you can possibly make in the history of the UFC. So, what is significant about this fight? Well, obviously, there's Francis Ngannou glooming out there somewhere in the wind, right? As the undisputed champion, he just had a great performance against Ferreira. Now, I got to be honest with you, getting knocked out by Anthony Joshua did not look good for me, considering you are the baddest man in the world. However, it is MMA. You were in a boxing ring, but you were never defeated officially from your title in the MMA cage, and you did great against a 6'8" Ferreira. None of this really solves anything with Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall, but what it does is set up the next piece right after these guys are fight because the projection right now is the possibility of both of these guys fighting somewhere in July. And this is what I predicted. I told you guys that if there was going to be a fight between these two men, it would be somewhere in July. It would be somewhere in July. And why would it be somewhere in July? Well, it's International Fight Week. You have the calendar of the UFC. Earlier in the live stream, I talked about the significance of UFC London card. Now there is the significance with Saudi Arabian cards. We've done a fight night just recently this year, Robert Whitaker versus Ali Askarov, which, by the way, was supposed to be Kamzat, but it never happened. And then later on, Kamzat ended up fighting Robert Whitaker anyway. And then here we are, Kamzat now the number one contender. So, yeah, these mid card, I'm sorry, these mid year cards, such as the London card in March, very essential for building the stars that they have. Obviously, it did a lot of great for Jorge Masvidal because they made that London card in 2019 really for Darren Till, and then Jorge Masvidal was just coming off of some Latin America reality show, hopping off of that, and then jumping into a fight with the favorite Darren Till, only to knock out Darren Till and then go back and get the knockout against Ben Askren, and then the history goes on from there. So yeah, UFC London was very pivotal for a lot of people's careers. Now for Tom Aspinall, next, Paddy Pimblett taking on Michael Chandler, a big name for Paddy Pimblett in his career. So that's the trajectory that we have going on right now. So Tom Aspinall obviously tasted defeat, and he's obviously tasted one of the greatest victories in UFC London, and now here he is taking on Jon Jones. So what's the significance of this fight? Just the other missing piece of the heavyweight division. Now I understand there are uh, promotional barriers between Francis Ngannou and these two fighters right here, right? But if you get these two out of the way, meaning that Jon Jones beats Tom Aspinall or Tom Aspinall beats Jon Jones, they get each other out of the way. It can open doors for a PFL collaboration or at least a collaboration with the Saudis where they can facilitate some sort of negotiation to get Francis Ngannou in there. Well, how would that look? Considering that the UFC doesn't want to share its athletes, maybe perhaps they have to create some kind of contract as to say, well, if you do win, then you have to come back and defend your UFC title somehow. But imagine if that was the case, right? Can you imagine just the constant different side ventures that Francis Ngannou would have to go through? Oh, well, you can do boxing here, but then you got to come back with do the PFL. He did that with Ferreira. Now he's against Ferreira. Now they give him a chance again for the UFC title or the linear UFC title that he's already had that he's never lost, and then they have him fight the winner of these 2, and then we figure out the missing piece of the heavyweight division of this current era, right? That's the trajectory of where this is going. So now let's talk about where and how this fight is going to play out. Well, let's start out from the very beginning, round 1. How is this gonna look? Jon Jones takes the center of the cage. He goes and he hits Tom Aspinall with a front kick. Maybe Tom Aspinall spats away the front kick, right? Or sort of like that Muay Thai catch kick where you sort of like step to the side and you look like you're flexing your biceps. You know what I'm talking about. A lot of the Muay Thai guys that practice that particular defense in that particular stance, you know what I'm talking about. Step to the side, flex your biceps, you catch the front kick, or sometimes it can work for a roundhouse kick as well. That's what it would look like. Uh, would Tom Aspinall be able to take down Jon Jones? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm going to say no. I think that he's going to struggle taking Jon Jones down. And I think that people are also going to be very surprised of how big Jon Jones is going to look against Tom Aspinall. Because the overall consensus that we have right now with, let's say, Tom Aspinall being the champ, or I'm sorry, being the favorite over the lineal champion or the current reigning champion right now, the official champion, Jon Jones, is that we think that he's bigger. But here's the thing, there's bigger and then there's significantly bigger. We know Francis Ngannou is significantly bigger than, let's say, Daniel Cormier. But is Jon Jones really that smaller than Tom Aspinall, or is he just big enough to, let's say, mitigate a lot of the takedown attempts that Tom Aspinall is going to try and shoot in on Jon? Of course, he's going to try that. He's going to try to shoot into takedowns. He's going to fail. Jon is going to stuff them. And as a result, Jon is going to have the advantages on the knees, on the elbows, and on the close range shots. He's going to have the advantages on that. I'd be really curious to see how Tom does in those exchanges. But you know what? Let me tell you what I see out of this fight. In all God honesty, what I see out of this fight is a 50-50 matchup. I swear to you. This is what I see. A 50-50 matchup because of how dangerous Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall can be. Very dangerous. So in that regard, the dangerous aspects of this fight is going to be within a close range shots of Jon Jones. But this time, this is actually the fight where the long range shots is going to be a lot more dangerous for Aspinall. But here's the thing, this is what's going to make this fight even better is that they both are great at close range. They both are great at long range. They're both great at grappling, but Jon Jones has a little bit of an edge in wrestling. So that is why the way that I see this fight, I'm predicting Jon Jones by unanimous or split decision. Very close fight that you're going to see out of this. Tom Aspinall, there is a reason why he's never been to 5 rounds, but Jon Jones, there is a reason why he's never ran across anyone like Tom Aspinall, and I think this is going to be the hardest fight of his life. Now, I'm going to talk about why this is going to be the hardest fight of his life with the strategies behind it and the aspects of its uh, reality in terms of the technical deficiency that one has over the other. But first, I'm going to talk about the psychology going into this fight. And then, as I talk about the psychology, I'm going to talk about what and how they can implement their techniques. I've already told you guys earlier how I saw it from the very beginning of the fight. Jon Jones is going to throw a front kick. Tom Aspinall is going to try to catch it. He's going to try to take him down. But that is where the takedown is going to be a rinse and repeat, or the lack of takedown, rather, is going to be the rinse and repeat. He's going to try and constantly shoot for the takedowns, only for Jon Jones to stuff them over and over and over and over again. That's what I mean by the rinse and repeat. So while all of that is going on, the fight is going to be heavily contested on the feet. This is where both of them are going to be effective with each other's close range and long range. But again, that's the technical side of it. Let's get to the psychological side of this whole entire fight. Jon Jones right now has a lot to prove going into this fight. Jon is also the type of guy that doesn't like it when he is being perceived as a bad guy. You see, Jon does everything and anything to look like a good guy as much as he can humanly possible. Now, I don't know what that is. You can toss it up as psychopathy or some sort of sociopathic tendencies or whatever it is that is a negative mental health issue for Jon Jones, but somehow creates positive outcomes in his fight trajectories. But whatever that is, okay, he does have a hero's complex in a way. And I think that this is one of those fights where Tom Aspinall, believe it or not, is going to be seen as the hero for many people out there. Look, let's be honest. Jon Jones, American champion, correct? He's the champion of America. He's Captain America. Look at the role that he's got. He's playing a Navy SEAL, Jon Jones. He's playing a Navy SEAL. So what does that tell you? That tells you that he knows how to play the good guy. He knows how to play that role, but is he really a good guy? And the answer is no. But in his mind, he believes he does. The way that he talks all this positive stuff. Oh, yeah, I'm Jon Jones. I believe in positivity or this and that. But in reality, Jon Jones is a psychopath killer, maybe even outside of the octagon, which really entail helps him to be the way that he is and to be able to push the limits that he needs to do what he needs to do. But make no mistake, Tom Aspinall is going to be seen as a good guy in this. He has a clean record inside and outside of the octagon. Okay, not that, yeah, not that one matters over the other when it comes to this particular subject, just a thought to bring up. But it is going to be a focal point of why many fans are going to support Tom Aspinall. And as a result, it's going to affect Jon Jones in a very negative way if they were to have this fight in the United States, which I think they will. They're going to have this fight in Las Vegas. I mean, the classic fights of Las Vegas, England versus America, right? The American champion taking on the British challenger. That is like the biggest story that a lot of British fight fans love and yearn for. But we also got to understand not just the American fans, but the screaming English fans that are going to be flying across the seas and into Las Vegas to turn up for the summer of 2025 with Jon Jones taking on Tom Aspinall. All the Brits are going to turn up. So it's going to give a psychological effect against Jon Jones. Okay, it's going to give him a certain uh mental barrier. You see, like I think Jon does care about what other people think. And a lot of us like to pretend that we don't care what other people think. Hey, the truth is, some of us really don't. But there are people that actually do. It really does affect them. Jon is no different than that. Why do I know this? Jon comes from a family of American athletes. You see, the type of American athletes that are seasoned in media training, the NFL, the NBA. Obviously, he doesn't have any NBA playing brothers, but he has two brothers that play in the NFL. I believe Arthur and the other one, Chandler, both good football players, right? And they're media trained, like most football player guys are. They're highly media trained people, so they know how to play the whole fake positive stuff. So I think it's going to affect him negatively when he has everybody against him and Tom Aspinall is the good guy, by the way, in his own country. And obviously, Jon Jones is not too far away from Las Vegas, being that he lives in New Mexico. But either way, it's going to affect him. So it's going to create a little bit of a mental barrier. Now, how will Tom Aspinall capitalize on that? Well, we're going to talk about that right after we talk about the psychology of Tom Aspinall going into this fight and how that's going to affect him and how he's going to use whatever technical prowess he has as a result of that. So, Tom Aspinall grew up with a great father figure, just like Jon Jones, great father figure. But obviously, two men are very different and very different in the way that they conduct themselves. Now, obviously, never was there any smut in the name of Tom Aspinall. Kept his name clean, never had any charges, never done anything wrong, was always a positive guy. And when you look at Tom Aspinall, his size and his grit about him, right? And his whole entire width, his whole entire presence looks intimidating. But when you talk to him, he's a very jolly, happy-go-lucky type of person. And when you see something like that, think, wow, you know what? This feels like a person that I want to be around. This feels like a person that I want to cheer on. And you know what? He is naturally like that. He doesn't have to try to be like that, unlike Jon Jones. I'm not saying that, well, I am sort of saying that has some kind of psychological effect in this fight. And I'm going to explain to you later on in the technique. You see, Tom Aspinall goes into fights with a clear conscience, right? All this positivity stuff that I sometimes preach against or sort of downplay, it's only because a lot of these guys are fake when they do it. I honestly don't think Tom Aspinall has any fakeness in him, the positivity that he displays. And I think that it sort of bothers Jon Jones in a weird way. That's why he says that, well, I find you very disrespectful. Well, you know what it is, Jon Jones? It's not Tom Aspinall that you find disrespectful. And I'm going to agree with you on this. It is the MMA fan base that is disrespectful in a nutshell. It is Jon Jones who is disrespectful, and many fans are against this type of disrespect that Jon Jones displays, right? So what do? They give that same disrespect back to, and by the way, in the name of supporting Tom Aspinall. So it becomes very problematic, and it makes Jon Jones think to himself, "Hey, you know what? Ain't none of these people support me. They don't like me, or this and that. It's going to affect him in some kind of way." But you know what? Sometimes the energy that you put out there is the energy that you get back. And quite frankly, that's something that I'm slowly learning as I get older. And that's something a lot of you are going to slowly start to learn as you get older is that a lot of things that you do negatively comes back and affects you in some kind. It is better to go in there positive with a clear mind of conscience. That's what Jon Jones is trying to do. This is what Tom Aspinall is naturally good at. So, in turn, let me explain to you how that psychological breakdown between these two and how this is going to play out and the technique that they need to display during this matchup. So, what Jon Jones needs to focus on is not hesitate. Every psychological matter that I had just explained to you right now could lead Jon Jones to hesitate in certain shots, in certain exchanges, and also in the tempo of the fight. With Tom Aspinall, I see a person who is clear of conscience, a person who has nothing to worry about outside of the octagon, is in peace with his maker, is in peace with his father, is in peace with his mother, is in peace with his family, doesn't have any of these domestic issues, doesn't have any of these underlining psychological breakdowns or past crash outs that he has to worry about when he gets out of the octagon because he's got a court case waiting for him. If you remember, Floyd Mayweather had a court case waiting for him during the time of his fight with, I believe, Manuel Marquez. Right? You imagine the perseverance that he had to go through. It was just extra work. he did it. He went through it. The clutch genes played a major factor in Floyd being able to get through that horrendous situation and worrying about a court case right outside after his fight. But still, it was something that he didn't need to have as a hassle in his life, but it was a hassle that had came to his life nonetheless. Tom Aspinall doesn't have any of that. He's not going to hesitate. When Jon Jones throws those front kicks, he tries to throw for a jab, when he tries to fight in a very plotting manner, okay, it's going to make him hesitate. But I'm sure not a lot, considering that, let's say, he's going to try and keep himself well behaved going into this fight and training from now, winter, all the way to the spring, summer, and fight night. I'm sure he's going to try to remain good, disciplined, and everything that he can. But we know Jon Jones is Jon Jones, and we know Tom Aspinall is Tom Aspinall. And this is why this fight is going to look like the way that it does. Jon Jones hesitating, and then Tom Aspinall out there flying like a bird, circling around the cage, moving with his feet, better footwork than Jon Jones. But still, it's going to be a dogfight because once Jon Jones gets in close range, he's going to make him feel those elbows. He's going to make him feel those knees. And the uh, just like the durable Chad that Tom Aspinall is, he's going to be able to take those shots. And while taking those shots, he's going to give it right back. But he's going to be less hesitant. And this is why this fight is going to the scorecard with a crazy decision. Okay? It's going to go to the scorecards with a crazy decision. Yeah. But for who? Now, you've seen all the fights in recent times, and some nefarious judges, or at least suspicion of. It only depends on who the judge is on that day and what their agenda is. Because this fight is so close that I'm telling you, by the end of it, by the end of the fifth round, when it goes to the scorecards, which, by the way, Tom Aspinall has never tasted in his career, but he has to at some point. Somebody has to be the Bibble to someone's better Biev, referencing the fact that when better Biev went into that fight, nobody had ever went to the scorecards with him. It's like Tom Aspinall. Now this is a whole different level. This is the highest level that both of them can fight, and it's going to go to a split decision. But for who? I can't really give you a full prediction right now. What I did give you right now was a full technical and psychological analysis all rolled into one. The why of why they're going to do their technique and why they won't, based on their past occurrences that have happened in their life. And all these things matter. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I will still continue on.
Neutral. Starting off the list of good. Oh, this actually he's gonna go into neutral too because this guy's fucking he's wild as shit sometimes, but he's a fucking I'm telling you, El-Kheer, he's wild as shit. He's going into neutral for different reasons. He's fucking wild, but he's the type of guy that you would want on your side. I feel like this guy just has an immense fucking loyalty about him. He's a good fucking dude. He is loyalty over royalty, defined to the fucking max. Now we start off the good cat. Yeah, I like El-Kheer. Fucking so what?